SDN Network Architect at Vodafone, and Juan Pedro Fernandez, Palacios, Head of Unit Transport Networks at Telefónica. Please welcome to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diego. We are very pleased to present you MAST, a group with a very strong name, also with a very strong motivation and a very important objective. I will start explaining what is MAST, and later on, Maria will also go through what are we doing next, and mainly talking about testing and validation. So first, what is MAST? MAST is a group, is a group of operators that have a common view, a common objective. The idea is having a vendor agnostic, fully interoperable, and open and standard SDN architecture for the transport. Something quite important thing and quite challenging. But the idea here, what the most important message or our main role in MAST is to provide a guidance, a common view. We are all the operators defining a common architecture and providing, thank you, and providing the requirements and this view, publishing this view to the whole industry in order to give a clear path towards this interoperability and vendor agnostic SDN. What are we doing? First of all, we define a common architecture, a common SDN architecture that is based on domain SDN controllers per technology in the transport network, domain controller for the microwave, domain controller for the IP, and domain controller for the optical, and a hierarchical controller on top in order to enable multi-layer, multi-domain use cases. Important, we are not defining the SDN controllers themselves. We are not proposing commercial solutions. We are focusing on the interfaces between the devices and the SDN controllers in order to clearly define what should be supported in the devices. For example, what are the requirements in the IP router, in a disaggregated cell-side gateway, in an open BNG, in a classical router, whatever, in order to be easily or implemented, integrated in a vendor-agnostic SDN network with an SDN controller. We are defining the requirement for the device. We are defining the requirement also in the SDN part, the SDN controller, what is the interface that should support. And important, we are also defining the APIs, the northbound interface from each domain controller towards the applications on top. That could be OSS, could be scripts developed by the operational teams in the operator or whatever. But our main objective, or what we are doing, is defining these interfaces, southbound interfaces between the controllers and the network elements, and the northbound interfaces between the controllers and the applications on top. The very first step is the definition, a clear definition of these requirements, of these specifications. This is the name of MAST, is mandatory use case specifications for SDN transport. Why this is also mandatory? These are the requirements that we are also including in our RFX processes. So the information that you can find here from a list of operators are the same that you will find in, for example, in procurement processes. So in MAST, this is the recipe in order to speed up. Our objective is to speed up the introduction of fully interoperable and vendor agnostic and standard transport SDN solutions. In order to cook this recipe, we are including on the one hand what are the common operator technical requirements, and this is the information that we are publishing, that we are providing in MAST. Technical requirement documents that are in the website and could be downloaded by anyone, and the DTRD documents that are like a RFI or RFQ, like the RFQ templates that are accessible in Confluence, inside TIP. We are also providing or submitting white papers with early market solutions, for example, the open optical network, defining how to implement optical disaggregation in the transport network, or for example, about the IP and the optical integration, and then we created like a spin-off that was the Mantra group that is dealing with IP and optical integration and the requirements for the SDN control of this kind of networks. With this combination of work and mainly having an open and neutral community for a, let's say, open collaboration among the operators, we managed to have, I think, a great success. We have started with 5 operators: Orange, Telefónica, Vodafone, Telia Company, MTN, and Deutsche Telekom. And currently, we are 9 operators working in MAST, and we are also expecting even an increased number of operators in the group. Because at the end, most of us has the common interest. We are not so different. All of us are doing almost the same things when we are operating the transport network. All of us, we need to deploy layer 3 VPNs, to discover the topology. They are the same things. And all of us wants to have fully interoperable and vendor-agnostic interfaces. Then what is the situation nowadays? Here, important, the working methodology in MAST is based on a use case-driven approach. We define a set of use cases that are common for the operators. We do a prioritization for these use cases, and then according to these use cases, that could be, for example, service provisioning, topology and inventory, performance, fault management. For these use cases, we do design and modeling based on a standard. We are not creating new standards. We are using standards that are mature enough in order to implement the use case, and we provide the technical specification in order to implement this use case. Then this information is submitted or is shared with the industry, particularly with the DTRD documents. And after receiving the responses from the industry, we do a technical qualification, and we start a test and validation process that Maria will present. What is the situation nowadays? We have done almost all the, let's say, 80% of the work that is needed for IP and optical networks. We have defined the southbound interface and the northbound interface for the optical network. For example, with a special focus on optical disaggregation. We have already defined the documents, the specifications for the northbound and the southbound interface for the IP controller. Now we are, for example, working on evaluating the results of the responses from the vendors. By the way, if you are a vendor and you are interested on that, please look at the Confluence. We have the documents. The submission window is still open for the technical qualification, because those vendors that are awarded with a ribbon or badge and with a good technical qualification will be afterwards validated inside the group. Very important, the results of all these tests and validation are shared among all the operators that are working in MAST, and this is that we can use these kind of qualifications in our internal RFX processes. Now I will pass the token to Maria Jesus that will explain the. I don't know if you will need this.
I think I don't need it anymore. So, okay, I will. Where do we go now? Okay, because it was explained by Juan Pedro all the process that we are working on as operators. Now it's time to the test and validation value proposition. What is the value proposition? What is the main goal? Is to accelerate the adoption of the SDN solutions in the market. How we can reduce the time to market now? Okay, if we already define a kind of requirements, of technical requirements for SDN and in a unified way, and with a single evaluation criteria common for all operators, also the provider or the vendors can answer in the same way, and we can have a single process for test and validation. I'm not repeating these tasks for every operator and with different requirements. So single requirement coming from the markets, and then we offer also to have the continuous feedback for all providers to have in this concept, because this is not a non-stopping process. It's a continuous and consistent feedback in all the process. Also, we have the high visibility, or we will offer the high visibility for all the technology vendors, because we establish this budget recognition for all the providers when we offer the solution. How is going to happen or how is happening now? Okay, we define a set of technical requirements in July, as you can see, and we have an open first submission windows for receiving the answer from the providers, and we have already some awarding already for NEC and Infinera, and you can see there. And we extended the window to receive much more solution and provider answer for all the technical requirements until November 20th. On December, we launched the event for the shortlisted vendors, and we defined the test plan approvals. When it's going to be completed in first half of 2023. And then we will have these validation events in a single process of this test of validation, and the providers can receive all this awarding process that we have already defined, right? It's already mentioned by Juan Pedro what are the documents that we are working on in these deliverables. Okay, we have the open optical terminals for SDN solution. Also for optical controllers, we have the northbound interfaces technical requirements release, and also the southbound interface requirement. And for IP routers, we have all the SDN requirements for IP router. We are working on the analysis of these, responses received from different providers. And then we are in working process and open the opportunity to extend this information to all other providers. Again, we would like to reinforce the message to open and to encourage other service providers to join us in these activities, because I think it's helpful to have more sources or information, and also more opinions on that, but we are based on technical requirements already agreed, and for sure all technology vendors to offer their solutions in our tip and validation frameworks to obtain this kind of new budgets and new recognition in the market as well. So that if you are all awake, thank you very much for all to come.
Thank you, Maria. Juan Pedro, thank you so much. Before we wrap up the session, Mario Kind from DT has a few words, so please come to the stage. Can I have the microphone? Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego, and thank you for making it possible. Also, Hans, and thanks for keeping him in the room. So I'm here because I want to do something totally different that you have heard today. It's not about technology, it's not about ecosystem, but it's about one person who is holding my group, the OpenBNG group, together. And Andy, please join me on stage. So, yeah, thank you. So, Andy is, until now, nothing, but let me start to speak a little more. So, you know, Andy is quite fearless. He doesn't mind to orchestrate 5 operators, a dozen vendors together, bringing it down to one of the worst devices that telecom operators have, via BNG. He is fearless enough to orchestrate 1,800 requirements, and we are now working on a test plan, and he's spending so much time and dedication into this, so that as my role as in being the OpenBNG group, and also from being employed by Deutsche Telekom, I want to say thank you for all what you have done, for holding us together, for driving this forward. And I have a very small German traditional present for you, which, well, it cannot compensate. It's just a small present. Thank you very much for leading us as a group towards where we are.
Thank you so much. Uncharacteristically, I don't know really what to say. Anyone who sits in our weekly meetings will know that at least sort of 45 minutes of the 46 minutes we spend together is me talking. But it's a pleasure working with you guys, and I think that you know, I've only been working with Tip and the project group for 2 years, and this event has been crazy, right? We've been working together all this time. We never met each other.
No.
We never knew, you know, how tall everybody was.
Except one very surprising thing. Hi, Andy.
But we made all this fantastic progress, and it's been such a pleasure hearing from yourself, the rest of the community today, about all of the great updates and progress that we've made as a group. So, looking forward to seeing all of you and more of you, and having more to share, and some more commercial deployments for OpenBNG for people who are here, and more next year.
Sorry, Diego.